Welcome, BBCers, to episode number 221 of the Broken by Concept podcast, the number one solo queue educational and motivational podcast. Curtis, today, listeners, you guys are going to love our first topic of the day. There was a study that was released. The question of the study was to find out which group or set of gamers have the highest IQ, who are the smartest players in terms of, which game they play. So this article reads here, this one was from esports.gg. This is really recent here. An October study into gaming IQ levels has suggested, at least numerically, League of Legends players are the most intelligent among modern fandoms. LoL topped the test after players were trialed across categories like verbal communication, mathematics, logic, and visual reasoning. From the 1,002 gamers surveyed, LoL players average an IQ level of 120.4, Black Myth Wukong 119.8, and Baldur's Gate 3 players 117.9, followed close behind. Rounding out the top 10, which ran down to 108.1 average IQ, was newer titles like Deadlock, Overwatch 2, Elden Ring, as well as long-standing game series like Counter-Strike, Dota 2, and the whole Dark Souls franchise. On the other end of the study spectrum, Sea of Thieves, Grand Theft Auto, and Call of Duty players all clocked in around the mid-90s, and the Rocket League fans barely avoided bottom spot with a 90.8 IQ average. EA, FC, FIFA 24 games, some polled still played FIFA 23, ranked the lowest with 89.8 average IQ, which is actually, bang on the average reported intelligence in the US this decade.
Well, what's the average? What's the like the median? Was it mean or median? What's the average IQ? Like in general, like
that's what it says here. The average reported for the intelligence in the US is 89.8, which is what the FIFA gamers scored. So they're not below average. They're just literally dead on average. So the article goes on to say it is worth mentioning the study only calculated out from a hair over 1,000 respondents, meaning it's quite a small sample size. That hasn't stopped the LoL community celebrating regardless, with many jokingly claiming that they always knew. Some suggested LoL topping the charts. Specific IQ number aside, still made a lot of sense. The right title demands memory, reflexes, coordination, and knowledge of one of the most expansive rosters in gaming history. That, compared to games like Overwatch or FIFA, often proves to be quite the hurdle. Other agreed it wasn't surprising to see LoL top of the study, considering how hard the game is for beginners to even get decent at the game. Not everyone was totally convinced, however, especially because so few gamers were polled. Some players expressed doubt that the average player in their game would rank among the top 8.7% of the US population. Others joked that they'd seen their teammates, so it couldn't be correct. And some pointed to the absolute degenerate toxicity in LoL's rank queues as one reason why average players couldn't be too smart. So we'll get up here. This is the ranking 1 to 20. So as we see, League of Legends, Black Myth, and Baldur's Gate were the top 3. Counter-Strike was number 4. And then looking at more competitive games, you had Overwatch 2, which was 113.1. Dota 2, which was 111.7. And then, Rocket League is a competitive esports game, and I guess FIFA and Call of Duty, so they were the lowest. But again, they're not below average. Like, League players are just way above average.
Yeah.
And
Galaxy Brain.
Galaxy Brain. So I'm sure that's a bit of an ego boost for our listeners. They're like, yes, I must be so smart. What do you make of this study here, Curtis?
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, the sample size is tiny.
It is.
There's not really much you can look. It probably doesn't tell you much at all. Because also we don't actually know the amount of people who play these games. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So it's not like it might be, maybe there's not many people who play League in this particular sample size, and it's not really going to give us too much. But I guess, look, let's just speak from our observations, right? We're not going to name names, but we have seen people in who we worked with and in real life who are quite successful in other endeavors, whether it's high level in the finance industry or high level in lawyers or doctors or accountants or whatever the hell it might be.
Engineers, I've got scientists in my program.
I've got aerospace engineers and
I've got principals of schools.
There's some pretty amazing individuals that we've had to work with, right? So, I think League does kind of attract, just based off who we work with, quite a few people who are very good at what they do. Now, again, that doesn't always equate to IQ, right? I think IQ itself is even just a weird thing.
Yeah,
general,
I mean, I've never taken an IQ test. I'm pretty sure I would rank not that high on an IQ test.
I have no idea. I don't even know what IQ tells you. Really,
I have no idea. I didn't even know the numbers. Like, again, 89.8 apparently is like the average.
So, look, I think that, look, League of Legends, if you think about it, it's a brutally competitive game, and it's a challenge, right? And so it would attract, naturally, I think, a lot of people that potentially are high achievers and who really want to kind of push themselves. But then you can also make the argument for, maybe a lot of high achievers who are people who are really amazing in other areas, who potentially have high IQ, don't want to play a game like League of Legends because it's not overly relaxing. So an argument could easily be made for and against this, right? So yeah, I don't really know what to make of this, to be honest. I don't really...
It's an interesting... When I saw this, I was like, that's interesting, but like it sort of makes sense. Like even that they're saying there how it's a bit difficult, but with this study as well, it's like the rank distribution as well for League is different. Like did they, if you got Diamond Challenger players, you would assume, like you have to be pretty smart to get into those ranks.
But what's interesting, because let's echo Jono for a second. Jono, who many of you have heard us mention on the podcast before, someone who we've worked with in Direwolves, the performance director. He was always absolutely enamored by the difficulty and the skills involved with League of Legends, right? He would always say, wow, this is crazy. This is the amount of depth of thought, the amount of things that you have to memorize, the amount of the level of strategic thinking that has to be undergone here for you to play League of Legends at a high level is mind-boggling. So him kind of coming from a completely different industry and not really knowing anything about League of Legends objectively, he was just completely mind blown. And that always really stuck with us, didn't it? Like when we heard him talk about it, like, we're just playing League, man.
And we were sort of talking about, we probably thought in our minds at that time as well. It's like, our teammates, they do pretty dumb things, like they're making such basic mistakes, but it's all subjective. Yeah, it's all subjective. Same as well with, you talk about Jono. Remember Dr. K, the case study that he talked about with cognitive flexibility, that League of Legends players ranked highly on that. The ability to adapt to things.
And I think I believe, I don't have the science to back this up, I believe it trains that skill.
Yes.
Like I think the more you play League, it trains that cognitive flexibility because you're forced to. It's like a forcing function. You kind of, in order to be successful in League of Legends, you need to be able to adapt to chaos and basically pivot on a dime, whether it's your win condition or whether it's how you play in a different team fight. I will say this. One of the common recurring trends that I've been asked, a question I've been asked is, I'm sure you would get asked the same. Here is a set of grubs that I want, or like a Rift Herald. And so from a mid laner's perspective, they say, oh, my jungler's just started grubs. What do? Do I move immediately to this play? Do I have time to quickly shove this mid wave? If I do shove mid wave, should I trim the wave? Should I slow build? Should I hard shove? Should I get to the grubs and be in the pit, or should I sit off to the side? The complexity of some of these grub fights and Rift Herald fights is mind-boggling.
And you got to make those decisions split second.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
Absolutely brutal. And then not to mention your ability to process, okay, what's happening with supports? Are the supports moving? What's happening with top lane prio? Can the junglers be here? Who's level 6? Who's not? Do I have ultimate? How much gold do I have? What's happening with the mid wave? How much am I going to lose? Is it a counter wave? Is it non? The amount of variables that need to be processed to come to a really amazing quality decision is mind-boggling. And I remember sometimes, like I was talking to Grindr, and he said, I was replying to some of his questions. He said, "It seems to me when you're breaking down games and when you play, you're just making decisions so much faster than I am. But I'm not even aware of that. And then when I'm actually going through these situations, I'm even surprised at my own ability. Because we take it for granted, like we look at, all these situations we've been coaching the game, the actual sheer level of pattern recognition is something that is it's alien-like. It's crazy.
Yeah, like your best games, you feel superhuman in a way.
You don't.
Like,
it doesn't even feel normal.
I can't, like, let's say if I play like an insane game, like just absolutely perfect, just at the right place at the right time every time, high farm, like, you know, 75, 80% kill participation. I like finish that game, like, oh wow, it'd be cool to like feel that again. I can't just like,
it's the ultimate flow state.
Yeah, I can't just like tap into that. You know, it's sort of just those games. You do feel superhuman.
Thank you to today's sponsor, mid.gg. We've been big fans of mid.gg. They've made finding high quality VODs to learn from high level players much easier. Rather than scouring through the Twitch VOD library with countless ads popping up everywhere, you can now go on, you can search by a particular matchup, by a particular streamer. You can just sort by a champion and you can see what runes they're doing. You can find the VODs. They're much higher quality VODs rather than those random dummy sum replays. And it just makes that whole process of watching higher level players much easier.
And the big differentiation with mid.gg is that it's not just Twitch streamers, pro players from EU and NA. It also has all the pro players from Korea and China using their streaming platforms. It's all integrated onto the app. You can see their builds and runes in real time. Go to mid.gg, download the app. We'll see you in there.
Something I was going to talk about today, which flows on from this really quite nicely, is I had this game yesterday, Nathan, where it was a really, really, really hard game. Okay. And I want to paint the picture here for you for a second. My bot lane, my AD carry, got annihilated. The enemy had a really high level, maybe it was a pro player, I think. They were like 1k LP one season. I had like a low master or diamond AD carry. And the matchup was also brutal. They were playing Caitlyn and my AD carry was playing Kai'Sa. My bot lane lost their tower at, I think it was 8 or 9 minutes. Full 5 plates, gone. Okay? I'm playing Ahri. I'm in a counter matchup. I get countered by Zoe. I can't play for Prio into Zoe. So I'm losing Prio. Bot lane's losing Prio. Or they literally don't have a tower, so their lane's done. They swap top, kill the Jax on top side of my team. So he's now in an unfavorable situation. They start whacking away. Plates get 3 plays top side. Now, in a game like this, where now you've got no lanes getting prio, they've got the first dragon. They've already now got collectively 8 plates. Caitlyn is snowballing out of control. Your Kai'Sa is like 50 CS down. No items. You're in a very, very tough game. The pressure you feel strangled. You have no vision. And they had a Diana that was off to a good start. They had like just a lot of go buttons. I think they had a, I can't remember what their support was. I think it was a Rel or something. I think it was a Rel and Diana. It was like in threat. And Zoe bubbles, shit going everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm painting the picture. I'm feeling stressed.
Yeah.
I'm feeling pretty...
You have no options. You're limited. You're getting choked out.
You're slowly
losing the game.
The only thing, this is what this is. There's 2 things that I guess that kept me in the game to orient myself around, to like reference points, if you will. The first one was that I know Caitlyn as a champion, if you think about it, it doesn't have amazing skirmishing. It struggles in skirmishes. If you think of Kai'Sa, my champion,
much better
skirmishing, right? So when it comes to those chaotic river fights and skirmishes, it can go. Caitlyn is more neat. You need to be a little bit neater.
You want to know where the enemy team they're coming, walking into. You can set up traps in like a little corridor. You're hitting a tower, and you've got your teammates behind you supporting you. So that's where you thrive.
So I knew that there was a difference in champ identity there that maybe I could leverage because I was playing Ahri. And the second thing is our comp had a very clear identity. We had Ahri, Viego, Jax, Rakan, Kai'Sa.
Beautiful
Composition.
Reset comp.
Beautiful composition or something like that, right? And I'm thinking, I think whether we had Rel or we had Rakan, one or the other. So either the same thing, right? And I'm thinking the whole time, if we can just survive and hang on and get to a skirmish, we can turn this game around. And what happened is we're like minimizing losing plates, neutralizing, saying no. There's
a lot of saying no in those type of games.
Lot of saying no.
Yeah.
Slowly bleeding out until there's that one river skirmish. One of them caught out of position. Diana's caught out of position. Boom. Viego goes in. I go in. Jax goes in. And we kill. And we get maybe 1 or 2 bounties. And then slowly we get him bracket up a bit of gold. We stem the bleeding. I think Caitlyn's get caught out once. We all blue flash and kill the Caitlyn. And that changed the whole dynamic of the game. And then, and even though we were behind in gold for the majority of the game, we started winning fights. And we started winning team fights. And we eventually won that game. Now, my takeaway from that, and I posted that as a live commentary on my website because I just showed how hard that game was from my perspective. I was commentating. I was saying, yeah, this is what my thought process, this is a hard game, and this is what I'm considering. And I remember I walked away from that game saying, there are not many people that would win that game because they wouldn't have the knowledge of understanding the strengths and weaknesses of the compositions. And this is what people forget. This is what I've noticed, what I'm trying to get across here. People forget that League at its baseline level is made up of champions with inherent strengths and weaknesses. Now, what happens is when someone is fed, you're only seeing their strengths. And when someone is playing well on the enemy team, we tend to only be aware of their strengths. We forget that those champions have weaknesses, and we forget, we sometimes over-index that there's a player, rather it's a champion at the end of the day. It's not a person, it's a champion.
That's how when I go into the game, I'm thinking about the game in terms of champions, yeah.
It's a champion. And so because I was able to stay level-headed and poised and consider the compositions and strengths and weaknesses, I was able to make very logical, clear-cut decisions that leveraged the champions on my team's strengths and punished their weaknesses. And so
to get to that stage, by the way, I want to talk about, this is where using those tools to check teammates like mastery and stuff, you're sort of thinking of them as players rather than champions, as well as thinking like in the game, thinking, okay, I have just got the worst teammates again. It's not champion, it's about player. You would have that mindset. Very dangerous in those games where you're just slowly bleeding out. Those are your thoughts versus rather the thoughts of like, how can I exploit the enemy champions?
Exactly right. And it's like, okay, we have a dive comp, they have a Caitlyn, does Kate have flash? Where's their team? Where's the support? And like, if you're thinking like that, rather than checking Porofessor, is this guy on a win streak? Oh my God, this guy's 1k LP down.
You hear about stories as well of people literally in the game going to OPGG.
Not stories. I see it. I had a review yesterday.
You saw it, really.
A Katarina player just joined my program. I'm going to call him out. And I literally called him out in a review, and he was pressing the Porofessor. It's like a plug-in or some shit. It comes up, and he was literally checking. His bot lane was losing. He was literally checking, hovering over the enemy AD carry match history.
Yeah, because
in the game.
That's just insane. But what's happening there in that person's mind is that they want to be able to like justify. It's like, oh, okay, like this game's on me. Like that makes sense. That's what they're looking. They're looking for an answer of like why this game is so hard. But the answer that you were looking for in that game is how do I win that? It's just such a big mindset.
I didn't even know the LP difference. I had no idea. I wasn't even thinking about it.
I as well had actually a question as well. Funny you say this. About this, one of my members, he played with like a Jace one game and he like absolutely carried, and then the next game he had the same guy on his team, and he said, Nathan, would you like play differently given that I've got the Jace, like I've got to play around him or whatever? It's like, okay, it can be a consideration, but I talked about one of my games. I swapped with I played this game yesterday with I got field, and this guy gave me jungle. He went top. He was playing Cassante versus Renekton. I had a Kai'Sa Seraphine bot and a Aurelion Sol mid. And what I identified is that, okay, I didn't know the rank disparity difference. Like he was number one, he was field, and he was also like a diamond one versus, a master player. I needed to play, like Renekton was the easiest person for me to kill in that game, in that early game. So I passed towards the Cassante, got a nice little counter gank, double kill, denied a huge wave, or got one kill and denied a wave. And like, I would not have had that option if I did like looked at that. Oh, that's a field play. I'm not going to play around that person. I just went to the Kai'Sa Seraphine. I was Kai'Sa Seraphine against Lux Varus and as Rek'Sai. That's just like a nightmare. I don't have any setup, and I'm just going to walk into a Lux here. I could burn a flash, but even if I go down there and burn a flash, my bot's not going to repeat kill them. It's actually not that high value versus getting Renekton behind, getting Cassante to start scaling up Renekton's useless behind. So it's super important to, again, in that example, I'm viewing the game as champions, not players.
I was streaming one of my solo queue games yesterday, and I had this early game where I don't know how you, maybe it's different from a jungler and mid and laner's perspective. When I come in, I'm always I feel out my opponent. So from level 1. So I don't know the quality of the opponent versing a lot of the time, because everyone name changes. Even if I did know their order, you don't know who's who, right? Yeah. So I come in and then I kind of just like feel them out. How good are they mechanically? Can they like if I'm playing Syndra, how good are they avoiding my Q? Now, I had 2 games recently where one of them, I was versing this Veigar, and he was like, he just kind of humbled me levels 1 to 3. He actually played really well. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of caught off guard. I'm like, oh, wow, this guy's actually got some pretty good micro. And he kind of gapped me like levels 1 to 3. And then what I did, I took my foot off the gas a little bit. I Like, all right, cool. I respect you now. And then I played a bit more like, respectfully and conservatively, and I end up pumping him later on. But in the past, what I would have done is I would have just like been like, oh, I got to beat this guy. I would have checked. Maybe I would have, if I knew this guy's rank. He was only like an Emerald 1 player, a Diamond 4 player. I checked after because I was curious. Wow, this guy probably had many other flaws in other aspects of his gameplay, but it was this Vigar 1 trick that had really good micro in the early game, and I was impressed. But if I had maybe jumped to that conclusion or anchored myself, this guy's just a Diamond 4 random Diamond 4 Vigar player. I should annihilate him. I maybe wouldn't have given him that respect. I wouldn't have taken my foot off the gas. And maybe I would have just completely overwhelmed my mental stack and died to a gank or something.
And then you have that expectation of like, if I'm not, you would literally have this thought in the game if you knew his rank beforehand.
Yeah.
Why, like, how's this possible? Why is this guy like beating me in the lane? And that is just such an unhelpful thought to have.
And it's easier just to come in not knowing in a weird way and then just calibrate. And then one of the other games I played on stream, I versed the rank 1 player. I think it was Kyose on one of his accounts, but I didn't know who he was, right? It was the rank 1 player, currently rank 1. And he really played well mechanically, gapped me level 1. I didn't know who it was. And then I calibrated. And someone was watching my stream, and I said after the game, because I'm like, who is this guy? This guy was pretty good. And I'm like, oh, that's the rank 1 player. And the guy who was watching my stream, because the guy, after when we played this game, he was playing Talia. He got like camped by the jungler and then up like inting and basically running it down because he just got camped and he must have just tilted, right? The guy in my stream who was watching that game said, when I told him he was the rank 1 player, he like imploded. He was just like, what the hell? That's the rank 1 player? And I showed his OBG. I'm like, that's him? And it's like, again, it doesn't really matter who you're versing. It's how they perform on the day.
And they're also limited by their champion as well, strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly. So Talia's Talia.
I guess in a way... Okay, so, people might be saying like, okay, you just view these people as like robot-like champions. It's also as well helpful to think about them as humans as well, for having empathy for your teammates making mistakes and also understanding that they're going to get overwhelmed. They're humans, they're not robots. Like your opponents are going to have an overwhelming mental stack. You're going to have opportunities. They're going to make mistakes. So it's like both. Like you want to have a healthy way of viewing them as like you're actually versing a person, like a human, and also... But they're still limited by it. But you're versing a champion, like a champion. They're completely limited by what their champion does in the game.
And that game that I was mentioning before with my Kai'Sa bot, right? I didn't get even angry at my Kai'Sa. I'm like, I understand. You're playing Kai'Sa into Caitlyn. It's very easy to lose into a Caitlyn. You
short range versus long range.
Short range versus long range. You take a few bad trades early. You have to you die early. That lane's over. Like you're not coming back. If your jungler passes away from you, you're not coming back. So because of that understanding of the game, I'm like, all right, cool, man. Like if you're going to, you have like 2 CS, but I get that. I can understand. I don't know what happened. I'm not watching your lane, but I can understand how that's possible. I can understand that you'd be trying and that would still happen. And at that point, I didn't know how good that Caitlyn was. I still didn't know who it was. But at least I knew enough about the bot lane matchup at a high level that I can see how that's possible. Like they lost their tower at 9 minutes. I'm like, okay, that's a bit extreme, but I can see a world where that would happen. But if you lack that empathy, if you lack that understanding aspect of it, you can really get into a dark place in a game very quickly and lose that focus, lose that poise.
Lots of unhelpful things you're saying to yourself. Oh, I'm the victim. You're not thinking about how to win the game anymore at that point.
I had a guy in my Discord. He said he sent me his OBGG, and he's a Yone player. And he had like a 60% win rate, right, with Yone. Very good. But his average deaths were 5.7, I think. And I said, holy moly, that's a lot of deaths for a Yone. Because for Yone especially, Yone is not a champion that's very forgiving. If you die...
You're a full melee champ.
Yeah. No utility, basically no utility. If you die on Yone in the early game, it is ugly. It gets ugly very quickly.
I've experienced that on my team, Curtis. And I've played into Yone lanes and made them very behind, and they're useless.
And you get that picture where you see the Yone come back with a Vamp Scepter, the other person comes back with a Lost Chapter. It is
it's actually my first thought when you talk about Yone behind, it's more top laners,
right?
Because they're versus melee champs and they can get absolutely obliterated.
Gapped.
Yeah.
So when I saw this, I literally said, wow, what an impressive win rate considering you have 5.7 deaths.
What's going on there?
And he didn't really, I don't think he had a way to answer that question. He's like, oh, wow, yeah, I must be doing something right. That's what I said. You must be doing something right. I think a week later, he sent a message today, and his win rate's even improved. I think 63%. And he said, I've been reflecting on it, and it was based off my daily tidbit about that hard game, staying poised in those games. And he said, that is what I'm doing. The difference maker for me, I'm not better. I'm making a lot of mistakes. I'm making the same amount of mistakes as everyone else in my ELO bracket. But the only difference is that when I'm getting into mid-game, I'm completely poised. I'm completely like flow state. I'm not judging anyone's gameplay. I'm not judging my own gameplay. I'm not anchoring to any mistakes. I'm just present in the moment, doing my thing, playing to the best of my ability, not tilting, not FFing, and I'm winning.
So he had better big games, but he was dying a lot early game.
Well, he's dying. He's making mistakes, but he's not tilting.
I see.
He's
so
not.
There's high deaths, but overall throughout the whole game, he's just playing.
He's just playing to his level.
Yeah.
There's no anchor. There's no getting tilted. He's literally just making good quality decisions to the best of his ability throughout the entirety of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why.
That's the power of poise. That is the power of poise right there.
Super powerful skill in League.
It's a buff of it has to be a buff of at least 300, 400, 500 LP.
Oh, 100%.
In just terms of net gains of wins that you would get that you otherwise wouldn't have.
Saying no to just two, I always say saying no to about, for junglers, 2 ganks or 2 team fights. It's all it takes 2 is completely will change the outcome of a game. Because when you say poise, it's like, oh, you're just poised like the whole time. It's like, no, I want to be aggressive here and go for this play. Maybe it's just like some bad plays that I go for, but just that 2 plays, like I know this is not going to look good. Just trade on the other side of the map something massive outcome of games, the results.
I know you had nothing to talk about. There's one simple observation here. It's not really something that, just a small thing. So one thing that I think is not right at the moment with mid lane, just champions, right? Let's think about AD AP for a second, okay? In jungle, there's a lot more of a balance, in my opinion, between playing AP and AD champions. Like, there's a lot of AP champions that you could play as a jungler.
Of course.
Amumu, Elise, Evelyn.
Udyr,
Gwen. I mean,
Elise.
There's a shit ton of
Lilia.
Eve, Lilia. Like, and they're all viable. And you don't necessarily have to OTP these champions to play them well. I mean, maybe Eve, you kind of like, you don't casually have Eve in your pool, right?
Yeah, you see one.
More of an OTP. Yeah. But a lot of those champions, you don't necessarily need to OTP, right? Let's talk mid for a second. During the AD carry meta, like there was a lot of like, you could just kind of casually integrate like Tristana. Tristana, in my opinion, was even though it was kind of OP for a certain period of time, it could have been balanced in a way where it was like, it would have been a good stock standard AD mid that a lot of people could casually play. At the moment, there's a giant lack of casual AD mids. The only one, in my opinion, that is actually left, because Yone is so... Look, I think Yone goes through periods where it can be, but Yone is just so volatile, like gets nerfed, indirectly nerfed. It's really a confusing champion.
Comparing 2 champs like Eve, Lilia, all that stuff, you can just stable and pick them, and they're always going to be like viable.
Viable no matter what. Yone goes through insane periods of like just it's really shit or really good, and it's just super unstable. The only one, in my opinion, that's been somewhat stable is Naafiri.
Really,
Naafiri in my eyes is like the ultimate like consistent stable AD pick that you don't have to OTP. If you think about every other AD champion, right? Zed, OTP champion. Aurelia, OTP champion. Talon, Yasuo. They're all OTP champion. You don't casually see think about it. Any player that you've seen in solo queue casually plays Talon, casually plays Aurelia, casually plays Zed. It's either basically an OTP or a 2-trick, essentially. That's really, there is no casual, very limited, casual AD mids. And it's actually kind of annoying because there are people that want to play AD mids. There's just not many options. And I just think that's a shame. And I think it's a real shame because now what you've got is you've got a whole host of players that are limited with their draft flexibility because they don't want to over-index and be an OTP, or maybe they don't enjoy Naafiri. So what are you left with? You're left with a super complex, hit or miss, meta-dependent Yone, or what? You've got very limited adaptability, or you just have to play double AP mid-jungle 2v2. And I just don't like that. I would love to see from Riot, this is my kind of, I guess, critique, that I would love to see more easier to execute AD mids. Where's the more... Naafiri was even added not even that long ago as well. There was probably, like, where are they? And so there's either two options. They add more. They literally create new champions. Or what would be easier is that you somehow, like they did with Tristana, make certain AD carry mids more viable. Now, look, you've got ones on the fence like Corki. Corki's a fucking shit show. Riot don't even know what they're doing with Corki. He's up and down, left and right. They're buffing his W, nerfing his W, changing his builds. He was AP, AD. They don't even know what the hell they're doing with Corki. Smolder is... I think they're confused with Smolder as well. Smolder's very hard to balance as a reliable AD mid. And then you've got weird gimmicky mids that come in and out of meta, like Garen mid, Tryndamere mid, Pyke mid. They're super unstable and too dependent on the meta. There's just they're really lacking stable core AD mids. Tristana was one that was hidden under the radar for like 3 years.
Tristana popped up here and there.
Well, it was there for ages. No one knew it. I think Fido in O's, he was the one that knew about it for ages, and he was way ahead of the meta. Shout out Fido. And then outside of that, there's not really much. So I just would like to see, there needs to be something addressed there. I just don't think it's good. That's my point.
I will be honest, I cannot even remember the last time I saw Naafiri.
It's not played that often. It's picked up popularity a bit recently, but still not.
Genuinely forgot that champ existed, Curtis.
In OS as well, no one plays it.
Maybe that's okay, Curtis. Maybe that's just the role, right? You just pick in, because I feel like that in League, you just can't have everything, right? Like it's like if you want to play, it's like you could be saying there as well. It's like tank. Like, why is tanks not in mid? Or engage. Like, why can't you play Rakan or Rel mid? Like, I think there has to be some limitations, and there could just be, that's what it is. It's like you're just like a little niche. One trick of one of these AD champs, or you're playing mid to just play AP, range mage champs, or melee champs, dude.
Right.
Maybe that's just the way it is.
So that's just the archetype of the mid lane role.
That's right. Like, if you're looking to play AD champs, then like that's not the role.
You should play top or...
Yeah, go play top or play an AD carry. Or the jungle champions.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe.
Like League just can't have... Like, if I was a Rider listening to you, it's like... God damn it, now you're going to tell me to balance all this other shit now as well, right? Like, this just be really difficult, I think.
Do you think it is really difficult? Do you think it's hard to develop champions like Naafiri? Easy to execute AD assassins?
Oh, so you think there just needs to be... The kits of these champs are just so... Like, the Cork and the Swatty, they need new champs, you're basically saying.
Or what they do is that they... Okay, so what you've got... I think that this is, I guess, one of the challenges. You've got these champions like Corki and Smolder that are like... It's like they don't know where they want them to be or what they want the identity to be. Do they want Smolder to be an AD carry, or do they want Smolder to be a mid lane? Do they want Tristana to be an AD carry, or do they want Tristana to be a mid lane? My point is that it's near and impossible to balance these champions for both bot and mid. Like,
that's the challenge, yeah.
They need to just make a decision.
Yeah.
And if these champions, if in mind they said, all right, screw it, we're forgetting about Tristana bot lane. We're forgetting about Smolder bot lane. And we're going to make these definitively AD carry oriented mids. That would make more sense to me.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Like, that would make more sense. I like that. But like, it's almost as if they're trying to balance, this thing between how do we keep Smolder from not being overpowered in mid and bot, and how do we make Tristana playable in mid? Think about this. Now that I reflect on it, think about how many iterations of AD carry mids that have been busted in mid lane over time. They went through like a time where Kalista mid was like real. Kalista solo lane Kalista was like really strong. Lucian mid was one of the most broken bullshit things, and was strong for ages, and then was like game ruining.
That was specifically when Kassadin was around. Like you'd always just pick Lucian into Kassadin.
But Lucian just went in general. Just was like a really oppressive mid lane.
Yeah, you'd say it a lot. Yeah.
Jace is just.
Oh, I forgot about Jace as well.
Jace is just...
What?
I think Jace is... Look, Jace is really hard. Jace is a very complicated champion. Like, really, really complicated. Okay. Well, I don't know if I'm going to bore you on it. Talk about Jace for a second. I don't know if that's really useful. Do you want to talk about Jace or not?
What's his win rate in mid lane, out of curiosity?
I don't know.
Is he better in top lane?
I don't really see Jace top that much either, do you?
I see it more than mid.
I think Jace can be really good if piloted well. It's just really hard. It's just really hard. And it's a champ that is kind of, it's masqueraded as a champ you could casually have in your pool. But in my opinion, you don't really see anyone have success with solo lane Jace unless they're borderline an OTP. Right? I mean, I can't even remember the last time I seen an actual successful Jace mid player.
Through your coaching programs.
Just anywhere.
Yeah.
Even a solo queue. Like, where do you see them? I think the ones that I remember just even globally, like there was the guy in EU, Rika, I believe. He was like, I remember watching his Jace, but there's not many Jace mid. I think there's some in China and Korea. I don't know if they're OTPs or not though. But I guess you go through weird metas where it is kind of there, but Jace has potential. I don't know. Jace is just very, very strange. Again, maybe the challenge with Jace is how do you balance it for top and mid? You know, if it is strong mid, maybe it's too strong top. What is the identity? Do you build lethality or do you want it to build AD? I don't know. I don't know. Just thinking aloud, I don't have the answers. But Jace is I love Jace. I just think it's just extremely hard. But maybe it needs to be. Maybe it needs to be. Maybe in order to have a kit like that, it needs to be difficult. So.
Yeah. You can't have everything.
Can't have everything.
It's like if you would saying this for argument for AD carries, it's like, where's my AP champions? It's like I've got Vlad, I've got Swain.
I think you can play a lot. I think a lot of mages are very viable bot lane. I think we're seeing that in the meta as well, in my opinion.
Seraphine.
You can see Huaybot, Luxbot, Ziggsbot.
Huay, Lux, Ziggs.
Seraphine, yeah.
That's true. It has options.
Anyway. Something to think about. Love to get the community take on that as well. Maybe I'm just delusional.
You just want everything, Curtis. You're just like this. I want it all.
Maybe I'm just like the community members that I critique.
Yeah.
And want everything.
Yeah, Curtis.
I'm just a biased mid laner, Nathan.
Yep. You know, I'm just listening to that conversation. I was like, how entitled are you, dude?
Just so entitled. Give me everything.
Like, there's a lot of champions that you can.
Mid lane, yeah. Well,
there's a lot of champions you can't play in the jungle, Curtis.
There's a lot, yeah, that's true.
You just can't clear the camps.
Yeah, I'm just tunnel visioning on the AP versus AD.
Like, show me, Curtis, the Victor jungle, the Orianna jungle, the Rakan jungle.
True. Mid lane has a lot of diversity.
You already got a lot,
maybe not as much in AD AP, but a lot of diversity in playstyle. And I will give them that. The mid lane is in a spot where you can play basically anything.
All right, Curtis, my topic here... This will be a quick one. This is from one of my members in my program asking about learning new champions in Smurfing. So he goes, I was just wondering what you think about players of higher rank, specifically. In my circumstances, this is a Grandmaster player, Smurfing to learn champions. So in my case, I have 3 accounts, currently one in top 50, one in top 150, and the other in Diamond 4. And I'm looking to learn champions that are either stray away from my usual playstyle or quite mechanically intensive. Depending on the champion, would you recommend I try to develop the skills in lower ranked account and try to transfer the skills once I fundamentally understand the champion at a master tier level? That's the question. So my response to this, Curtis, is that let's say if you're a Master Plus player, I think... Smurfing or playing to learn champions on an Emerald 1 Diamond 4 account is completely fine. Anything under that, I said, was going to be... You're playing... The games are just too easy. You're not getting... You just want to write... Basically, when you're learning champions, you want to write amount of challenge, but you also want to be making sure that you're able to play the champion and not, like, the game. Because as the higher rank you go, especially playing in high elo, like, you might be, like, not good into their team comp, or like there's so many little factors that will be like, my champion's just... I actually can't even learn my champion in this game specifically because there's so much going on in the game. I have to play the game of League of Legends at a high level.
I totally agree. I think it's completely fine. I think, I mean, look, when you're playing high elo, Nathan, as we've been articulating today, it's not about... It's a given that you know how to play your champion, right? It's about playing the game. How do you win the game holistically? And if you don't necessarily understand your champion's identity, or you don't even have the mental capacity, you don't even have the mental stack to allocate towards thinking about win conditions, you're screwed.
Yeah, you're also just ruining the game for everyone.
Ruining the game for everyone. Yeah. So I think, 100%. I mean, I think nowadays there needs to be even more probably a hardcore respect for champion mastery. And I've had people like your client be high elo players and then be surprised that they are losing games in Diamond 4. And I'm like, why are you surprised?
It's so easy to lose the game in Diamond 4.
So easy, dude.
Yeah.
You're not that much better.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, as in, you are in a lot of small details, but you can't even access that knowledge that you have because your mental stack is going to be so jacked up.
Yep.
So it makes sense. So I think for him, I would actually go to say, if you're learning something that is completely new, right? I don't know this player, but let's say hypothetically he was, he's never played a hardcore farming jungler before, like a Karthus or something.
So he is a farming jungler.
Right.
And here he's wanting to learn to play AD junglers.
Right. That can be a massive shift.
That's right.
Mindset shift, mechanical shift.
Yeah,
everything,
if
right?
you're a full AP jungle player and then suddenly you're playing...
If you learn Graves or something, or
Jarvan, I think,
or
is more
Jarvan.
extreme. Like, that's really hard.
Lee Sin or whatever.
Yeah, Xin Zhao.
Complete 180. Yeah, and you will lose games, straight up lose games.
It's probably 50% win rate, even maybe a negative win rate.
But
I also don't think this just applies to high elo as well. I think that about 400 LP difference is great to learn champions, I would say. So let's say if you're a platinum 4 player, playing on a gold 4 account to learn champions is fine.
Yep.
Or silver, like literally silver 1 to gold 4.
Fine.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's not even fine. It's encouraged.
Yeah. That's what
I actually can't stand it when people learn champions on their main accounts. I mean, I'm a giant hypocrite because that's kind of what I do.
Yeah.
So, but look, I think it's not good. I'm not even condoning it. I think it's bad. I think it's griefing games and you're ruining the experience for other people. You're not actually going to even learn that much because you're probably going to get stomped as well. And it's really a cop out. And even when I do it, and sometimes I've done it, I've regretted it. And so, yeah, I think you need to be, everyone should have a second account to learn champions. It should be just an absolute given.
All right, Curtis. So we'll move on to our school post of the week. Also, let's just circle him back, Curtis. A quick comment about the League of Legends, the IQ thing. So the next time your spouse, partner, friend, whatever says, why are you wasting time on that game? You can link him this article and be like, well, me playing this game, you should be lucky I'm above average IQ and this game is difficult and it's challenging me mentally.
And you know what? You know what is the giant ironic thing about this whole thing? And is that we're League of Legends players referring to a survey done of 1,000 people.
What do you mean? Are you saying that's like not a...
That's my
intelligent
point.
thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I see.
So if we were really that smart, if our IQ was 120, would we be referencing an article or a survey done with 1,000 people? Probably not. That's the ironic thing about this whole thing. So, yeah, we're gonna get roasted, I reckon. But bring it on. We can live in our fairyland. We're the smartest.
Yep. So they could also backfire as well. You just get laughed out of the building. It's like this most joke. Like this is exactly why.
Yeah.
This survey's it's actually confirmed that the survey is incorrect.
All you got to do is listen to this podcast, and you know this article is bullshit.
Yeah, dude, we talk a lot of shit on this podcast. All right, Curtis. Our school community post of the day comes from Adam. The title of this one is "League is too difficult to have terms like low elo." It's a hot topic. I've been high bronze / low silver for the better part of 2 years now, and hearing ranks above me like gold and plat described as low elo is really demoralizing. The game is so impossibly hard with every aspect you need to improve at. It seems unfair to describe a good portion of the player base as low elo. I understand that it's often just used as a literal term to separate the ranks, but even the stats show us that 80% of the player base is contained within Iron to Platinum. From CSing to mastering a champ to knowing what other champs do and how they interact to map awareness, macro, micro, and so on. It's been stated countless times just how hard this game is to learn and master, so why do we describe nearly the whole player base who are doing their best to learn these concepts as being... essentially bad at the game? I know it doesn't make me feel great that I'm still in nearly the lowest rank after spending basically every day trying to practice and improve. I can't imagine how an IM player feels trying to climb. Reaching a rank like gold seems unfathomable to me in what I'd have to improve at. Yet even if I got there, it wouldn't be considered impressive by the wider league community standards. That seems so harsh to me. What do people think? I mean, Curtis, when I say the term low elo, my brain actually scatters a lot of the time. Like, I don't know where, it cuts off. Like, there's so much open interpretation to what low elo is. Like, a challenger player might think Masters here is a low elo. An Emerald player might think, gold is low elo. This term, it's a funny term. It sort of just what everyone's just accepted. And you know why it's such a popular sentiment is because you hear this from the top, right? It's just like, you're just low elo. And it's sort of like a derogatory or funny term that, like, you know, you're watching X Challenger streamer saying, you know, I got these low elo Diamond 1 players in my team.
Yeah, it reminds me of one of Nassim Taleb's book. I can't remember which one it was. He was telling a story about how there was a couple who were earning like really good money in New York, and then like I think they collectively as a couple were earning like
over $1 million.
Yeah, like $1 million or something, and then they were feeling poor because in their neighborhood they were considered poor, but because in the neighborhood they were living in Billionaires Row or something, right? And so, you know, it's all relative. And so when you talk to a lot of challenger players, when they say low elo, they probably mean diamond or something, right? Or emerald maybe. If you talk to maybe an emerald player, and they're probably thinking low elo is gold or silver, and you talk to a silver player, low elo is iron maybe, or whatever. It's all relative, and I agree though. I think low elo is one of those you know we talk about the loaded terms. It's a loaded term. It's one of probably the most loaded terms
in all of League of Legends.
In all of League of Legends, it's lost it. High elo and low elo is completely
it does. That's why it's so
lost its
uncomfortable.
meaning.
Because when I say it, I'm like, people could be interpreting this in any, like, I could be saying one thing and people think I'm talking about silver players or Diamond 1 players.
It's interesting because I've caught myself, and so I've actually made an adjustment, and it's actually just now thinking about it's kind of funny. I say in the lower elo brackets. That's what I say.
Yeah.
But even I don't like it's still the same, but I don't like it because I felt uncomfortable saying low elo.
Yeah. So you're trying to like...
I'm trying to like beat around the bush.
But you're not getting anywhere.
Not really getting anywhere. I don't have a term for it. So I think like what it would be great, what I wish they had, you know how we have the Apex tiers? And Apex is what? Master, Grandmaster, Chal. Yeah. It'd be cool if they were categorized where it's like, okay, Emerald, Diamond, and you have like Plat, Gold. Because that's the way I kind of... When we think of the rank system, and I don't know how you think about it, but I kind of group them together. Like in my mind, I have... Let's start top from bottom. I view the Apex tiers. You have Master, Grandmaster, Challenger. Then I have, in my eyes, like, you know, the Diamond, Emerald are kind of like together. They're like very, very good at the game.
I'll say Diamond and like mid to high Emerald.
Mid to high Emerald. And then you have like that's like a kind of like a bracket there. And you kind of have like the low Emerald and Plat kind of. And then you have like Plat 4 Gold in there. And then you kind of have like... I feel like Silver in a weird way is kind of its... Maybe silver logo is kind of its own thing, and then you have like iron, bronze. You know, it'd be cool if they had terms. You know, there was, and it's not low elo, high elo. It's just there's this one and then this one, and they're just kind of pools of elo brackets. So yeah, maybe we need to innovate. We need to create some sort of like you know, it's hard. It would be hard for it to stick, but I resonate. I think this is a very, very a big problem actually in the League community. I actually made a video recently talking about the elitist culture of League of Legends, and where this all stems from, TLDR, is the lack of recognition of the underlying skills that the high elo players actually have developed. So it starts with you have these amazingly, not talented, just amazingly skilled players who've played the game for thousands of hours who are exceptional at the game. They don't realize the skills they've developed because in their mind, it's just a game and they're just playing for fun and they're doing something they love.
And it's easy.
And it's
anyone
easy in
can
their
do
mind.
it.
Anyone can do it. So they completely downplay the skills that play to get to that level. And then what happens is that you just then you just disrespect. There becomes like this inherent disrespect for the craft of League of Legends because it is just a game. That's like saying someone who is really, really good at, let's say, tennis. Oh yeah, I love tennis. I just played a lot of it. It's just, that's it. It's, I'm not that good. And they're just playing it like a semi-pro. It's just, that's not, we don't, at a societal level, we agree that if you can do these things in tennis, that is a really amazing skill. But in League, that's not really the part of the conversation. It's like, you're just good at League. Oh, that's not that impressive. There's all these incredible things that these high-level players are doing. And if it's coming from the top, if the players at the top are not owning that, if the players at the top themselves are not, I guess, talking about how hard League is and the skills, the struggles they've had to go through and all these things that they've had to develop, if they're not saying it, then that's going to have a trickle-down effect in terms of the disrespect of the skill of League. So until we can actually have a real conversation or, I guess, a real agreement at a high level with the entirety of the league player base, that league is an incredibly hard game, then we can't get anywhere. And terms like this will just stick around.
I've also heard people say like low, medium elo, and then high elo. Maybe that works as well. Like maybe if I was to say low elo in that context, it would be like up to maybe gold 4, and then medium would be like gold 4 to diamond 4, and then high elo would be like mid to high diamond plus. But there's a lot of ranks now in the game. Like they introduced Emerald last year, whatever it is, right? So we sort of need to fix up our terminology.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think again, you're right. Like, yeah, it is a trickle down from the top, right? It always is going to be. It's like if I start playing League and you start, where do you go? You learn from the best, right? Or the top players or the challenger players. And if they start using this terminology, that's say, oh, that's the way people talk in the community. That's what the best players say. That's what it's like. You get like ingrained into this community culture.
Yeah, 100%. And
I wonder what they say in chess out of curiosity.
Yeah. If anyone's in the chess community and knows what the terminology is used there, what is considered like good?
I think they just say the numbers. I think they're more numbers. Like you're an 1800 or 2000.
Good? Is that just the median? I'm assuming like 1500 or something. Is that the median? Like 1500?
Yeah, I think so. That's like where you. I don't know.
I think you started like 900 or something.
Yeah,
but I don't know if that's considered. What's the median or mean or whatever?
I think 1800. You're like pretty damn good.
Yeah, because if you think about back in our day with League, right? 1500 was like gold, right?
Yeah.
And
so 1800 was platinum.
Plat was 17 something?
Yeah, 1750 or something. And then there was only Diamond and Challenger. So like Diamond was 2000.
2000 or something, yeah.
And then Challenger would have been 2200 plus.
So that means the median would be something like 1200 or something, right? Because the average would be silver.
Yeah, something like that.
Bronze.
Correct.
So like say 1100 or 1000.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Be interesting. But yeah, I think that I empathize with anyone who's in especially in a friendship group of people who are in the quote unquote high elo community. The shit that they would cop and even just indirectly without even the people realizing it, because people at the top, in Diamond Plus, they probably don't even realize how they're pissing people off and shitting on people by calling them low elo. And I'm guilty of it myself indirectly without even realizing it. But it is like you said, a derogatory term. Something we got to be, hold ourselves accountable to,
All right, Curtis, mailbag time.
Yep.
Away we go. Welcome back for Nathan's mailbag. Jingle, jingle, jingle song. Alrighty then. Our first question here comes from Austin. The title of this email is GM from another MOBA struggling to adapt and learn League. Hello, Nathan and Curtis. Austin here. I played mid lane in Smite at a Grandmaster, the highest rank you can achieve. So this must be Challenger level, and have been putting a decent effort into learning mid lane in League. I find myself struggling a decent amount adapting to the basic fundamentals of League itself. Example, last hit in learning rotation, recognizing what champs have what in their kits. Being kind of stuck around bronze though since my swap over to League, and feel like I'm still just getting skill diffed every game. Is the difference in how League is played just that different from other MOBAs? I'm not sure why either, but it feels like every game I play, I am just matched up versus players that have hundreds of more League games than I do. Would love to hear some input on whether it's just an experience gap that I've yet to overcome, or you have any advice. And this is his OPGG. So Bronze 4 with 10 wins and 13 losses. So very small sample size. Yep. Let's just make sure we always check him first to see if he plays enough in each season.
He could have a lot of normal games, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, that too as well, I guess. So
yeah, he's barely
played ranked.
So he just started then.
He's literally just started.
So he's level 67 on his account though. So that's I'm assuming that means he's played quite a few normal games.
Yep.
As well.
Maybe, even saying the low sample size here, like, okay, well, this is quite drastic. Like, he should at least maybe be starting off and doing good in gold, but he's got to learn all the champs, dude. Like that's a lot, and
there's a lot of just initial learning. Okay, so let's pose a potential reality here, Nathan. What was his name again? Sam or something?
His name was Austin.
Austin. So let's assume that Austin has all of this interesting kind of like perspective on MOBAs, understands golden experience, understands tempo and efficiency and where to be and map awareness, all this stuff, right?
The reality is as well, it's probably like getting good at it again, what that feels like, what that might look like.
Yeah, so let's say he has all of that there. That's like all this untapped potential. The reality is, imagine this is kind of I guess the metaphor that I would use. Imagine you're like imagine you have the flat the ground, the dirt. And then just beneath the dirt, you have this kind of ocean of oil. It's like an oil reserve. So he's chipping away, digging down. He hasn't yet reached that oil reserve because there's so much initial work that needs to be done to tap into that potential. And I don't know if that's the case. It could be the case though, because in League, you got to learn all the champions. You got to learn the items. You got to have a feel for what the baseline damage everything is. Once you get all that down pat and you have at least a baseline muscle memory, then you can tap in to all of that experience and all of that knowledge and all that kind of gaming understanding that you have. But you're not yet really able to tap into it because you're just getting knowledge gapped for now. You know what I mean? Like there's just a sheer knowledge gap. Now that could be the case. There is an argument that could be the case. The other more, I guess, bitter reality is that it's just a different game. It's a different game. Smite's very different. And nowadays, people in bronze and silver are actually good.
Yeah.
I'm surprised sometimes when I look at a bronze player or silver player how good they are at the game. And that's just the reality of the league. The player base has gotten significantly better. Bronze, we've said this before, bronze even 5 years ago is... you couldn't even recognize it compared to bronze now. So there are players that I look at sometimes silver and bronze and I'm genuinely like surprised at what they can get done.
It's not what you thought bronze and silver would look like. Yeah.
No. So I would give probably more respect to the quality of your opponents because I've been shocked even looking at some of them.
Yeah, I like that analogy. It's like that, that dig in, he's got to... things have to start clicking and it's going to, once it clicks, like you can go, like League's not a game where it's like, it's just a graph and you're just slowly, you learn one skill and you climb rank a little bit. Like it's, what we see a lot of the time with our students is like, they like plateau, they're stuck, whatever. And then they just have huge jumps because things just click. They're like, that's how it feels to play my champion properly. This is what a good game looks like. This is what it feels like to ignore plays and play the experience and gold game. This is what it's like to play the objective focus game. It's things that click. So that's the first one. I think that's just going to take time. Yep. Now, you might be saying, well, that sounds all good and all, but again, I didn't expect to be starting at bronze. So I played actually a lot of Smite Girders when we had our Smite team back in the Dials days. We had a Smite team. We actually, Dials, we were the best in Australia and we went over and competed in the World Championships for Smite Dials in 2017 and 2018. And I played like a lot with the team and stuff like that. And coming from League, I was able to get Diamond in Smite. I played ADC Cupid really quickly, actually.
Wow.
So I was like already, again, Oceania, you would say it's like a much smaller server, but like I was like, got pretty high pretty quick. So in terms of the skill of the player base, I'm not like just saying like, Smite's, like I think League is harder than Smite. I think Smite players obviously there's still obviously the skill and the respect of that game, but I think League is a different beast as well of just how mature the player base is compared to Smite. Smite was way more feeling of casual in terms of the general player base compared to League of Legends as well. So that's another thing as well that I'll take into consideration. I think that, I was sort of just beating around the bush when I was saying Smite's easier than League of Legends.
Right.
And the player base is more mature and the ranks is just more brutal. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really be surprised given if you had 200 games in your bronze, I would be, maybe there's something more at play. Maybe you're just completely disrespecting the game. You think it's, you're just over aggressive and you're fighting all the time. But, yeah, I think it's fine. I wouldn't be panicking at all.
Pretty normal.
Let's just keep chipping away, learn the champions, all that sort of stuff.
And I do think, though, I do agree with your first point, Nathan. I think you can make randomly, you can make progress pretty
Massive
quickly.
progress.
So don't sweat it. You'll be at a rank for a while. Things will click. But keep us updated. I'd like to know in 6 months' time what happened if you do commit.
All right, next one here comes from Vincent. Bronze or emerald? Where do I belong? Hello, Nathan and Curtis. Sorry for my poor English. It's not my first language. Love the podcast. It really motivates me to improve at the game like no other content about League. So a bit about me. I've been playing LoL since Vayne came out. I've stopped playing here and there and really came back to the game at the end of Season 13. I've always been a huge solo queue fan. I've always loved the challenge and the psychology behind queuing to fight your own mental state. I peaked Platinum 1 around Season 5 and have been hovering there for years. Coming back after 3 years break in Season 13, I got hit hard by how good everyone had become. The concepts we used to struggle to learn are now common knowledge, and when I realized I had a silver to low gold level, I wanted to get back in the arena and prove myself I could still improve, carry and leave my mark. I've always played League as an OTP. Through time, all my champions got reworked. Karma, then Katarina, then Akali. So I had to start all over again. I fell hard for Ahri. So I listened to your methods and digested all the content I could find on everything about the game, and particularly on mid-game. I took a coaching session from a master Ahri OTP as I wanted to have an exterior point of view, and it worked. In 6 months, I played like a brute, around 1,000 games split 2, and current, I went from Silver 4 to Emerald 3. Now, there lies the issue. I have 2 accounts, the oldest with my skins and my sentimental value memories in it, and a competitive account to play solo queue on. The first account is currently Bronze 2. I can't manage to get an easy victory on it, even when I'm playing as hard as I can. The second one is currently Emerald 3. I managed to get it up from low silver to Emerald 4 last day of the second split, and since the start of the third split, I managed to get it from Gold 4 to Emerald 3. Overall, a great matchmaking experience. I didn't have much difficulties getting it back up. But this first account is now nightmare fuel. Every time I try playing on it, chat disabled and all, the difficulty seems to be cranked up to the maximum, and even winning lane in Bronze looks way harder than on Emerald. In results, I gave up climbing with the first account and used it to practice jungle. It's still incredibly hard to carry anything, especially with a new role, but at least I'm not throwing the account away. I've heard something like old accounts have MMR issues. Is it a real thing or is it just cope? I really feel like my account is buried, and that makes me so sad, as each one of my attempts at carrying games on it just results in losing in a Bronze game. Does it put my Emerald rank in question? Of course, I should be carrying hard, and I've done it before, but I swear on this account, everything is so much harder. Anyway, thank you for your time. Keep up the good work. Your podcast really helps me untilt and focus more on things I can control. On my side, I'll try to push Diamond 4 this month so I can slow down with this crazy rhythm of number of games I currently have. Here are my OPGGs. So the first one, this is the stuck one. It's on E West. So he wrote in this was Bronze, he's now Gold. And so this is stuck, so he's an Ahri, 77 games played, 58% win rate.
So he's climbing.
Yeah.
So, Nathan, I think you've touched on this before many a times, and I couldn't agree more about this whole idea that when people play at a lower elo bracket, they change their mindset.
They play different. Yeah.
And so in a way, you don't even realize it. So what happens, right, is you're coming into the game in your mind. You've anchored yourself as an Emerald player. You've now come into that game thinking that you're better than everyone else by a mile.
And your job is to carry.
Exactly right. You're not actually doing your job at a champion level.
People's perception of carry that's the problem.
So exactly right. So the way that would manifest as a mid laner, we can talk about how that would manifest differently as a jungler, but first as a mid laner, you wouldn't really be paying attention to the jungler as much. You'd just be trying to kill your opponent. You would tend to overstay because you're like, oh, this guy's low. Instead of just taking the small win, you're just going to try and overstep and kill. You're going to tunnel vision more in the 1v1. You're going to maybe over roam. Maybe you get a lead and you over roam and overdo it rather than just farming up, being strong, getting your vision and waiting for a better quality opportunity. And you're going to be lacking poise. And also, from a mindset perspective, you're going to get significantly tilted when things don't go your way, because you've anchored. You're like, every game you have to win in your eyes. If you lose in Bronze, in your mind you're thinking, holy shit, I can't lose this game. It's not possible for me to lose this game. And so every mistake just hurts more, and it's very hard to remain poised.
It's like destroying your self-narrative. It's like, this is not me. I'm not this level player.
Exactly.
So it literally will snowball more and more out of control.
What about from a jungler's perspective?
A jungler's perspective would look like not literally looking at any lanes, just absolutely like AFK farming, and then like the game just feels so hard in the mid game because you haven't impacted any lane, and there's just strong members, and even though you might be better mechanically, it's just a little bit harder to play against them because they have items, right? That's the way it would look like from a jungle perspective.
Yeah, right.
Because you're just like ignoring everyone. There's no win. You're the win condition. You're not reading wave states, whatever. There could be free opportunities to actually get your laners ahead, but you don't trust them because they're bronze and they can't carry the game, and you got to be the carry. It sort of depends what champion you're playing, I guess, as well. But as well, I would say it would be the classic, I'm taking every fight regardless. I can win this 2v3. I can win this. I can win numbers disadvantage fights because I'm so much better than everyone else. That's what it would be. It's the classic, when I read this email, it just screams to me, I'm doing too much. I'm not playing proper league. Like, his view of league's distorted. He's the hard, in a way with league, the harder you try, the more it like pushes you down, you know, because again, people's perception of like, it's like, well, you're saying just for fun. No, I'm not saying that. Like, the harder you're like, people's perception of when they think about trying hard, it's like solo killing your opponent like 3-4 times, having a fancy KDA. They don't think of like a great game of being like just like 2 kills 0, but like, you know, or 0-0-0 and just like have good farm, protected everyone.
You know what the sport or the other skill that I've constantly been referring to is poker. Now, if we think about the way this would manifest in poker, right? Imagine you know that you've proven yourself to be playing with way better quality players, right? And you went into maybe a table where you know where you're versing less skilled players. What would really trying to like take over a game in poker look like? You're kind of limited, right, by the game itself. You don't want to overdo it because then, you know, you're not playing the game of poker. You're not taking high percentage decisions and
exactly
playing
right.
patient and waiting for opportunities and setting people, you know, and so that's the exact same thing in league. You can't just go in.
You can't force opportunities.
You can't force opportunities. The game is the game. You're given a certain set of circumstances, right? The way the game, this is an interesting kind of way of viewing league. League throws at you a series of situations. Your job is to try and find the best quality decision in these particular scenarios. Now, you don't know what is going to be thrown your way. You can kind of somewhat create certain conditions, but league is a game of likelihood and probability. So all you're doing is you're just tipping the scales. This situation, I can turn it from a 50-50 to maybe a 70-30. Or this fight there looks like an 80-20, so I'm going to say no to that. And your job, your skill difference is your ability to identify what's the high percentage play, what's the low percentage play. Execute the high percentage plays, say no to the low percentage plays, and then that's how you're going to get your LP. So, you know, and I guess I've never thought of it like this, but in league, if you're good, if you're better, say you're in an ELO bracket that is considerably lower than your skill, your advantage is essentially identifying the odds of a lot of these scenarios and being able to pick and choose which ones you come and say. Like, that's what, in a weird way, what we do, right? In league, isn't it?
That's right.
You're just observing, oh, that's a high percentage play, that's a low percentage play. Okay, I'm going to go to the high percentage play and execute it well. You're not creating that. You're in a weird way, somewhat reacting to a lot of these scenarios.
Like, let's say if someone overstays, I can punish that some way. The enemy jungler ganks somewhere. Okay, well, I can maybe take their camps, or I can maybe anticipate that gank and go for a counter gank. League's just a constant flow of information coming to you, and you're trying to make the best high quality decision that makes sense in terms of most of the time an experience and gold value, not just for yourself, but for your teammates as well.
And what people view, what he's doing, and what are these people when they quote unquote smurf, is they're trying to create situations constantly, create, rather than react to these situations happening and pick and choose which ones you want to go to. That's the better way to frame it.
Because like, even if you think about trading in a lane, right? Because people might be saying, well, Nathan and Curtis, aren't you creating an advantage and push it if you're like trading really well? Let's say if you're 60% HP to a 40, you know, you've got them down to like 30% HP.
Well, this is where it gets very complicated though, because trading is just a matter of, it's a combination of playing to your champ's identity, but then also punishing errors. So let's say, for example, someone is moving very linearly, you're going to land more skill sets. You're punishing that via
It's still reaction in a way.
In a weird way, this is where leagues get very complicated, isn't it? Because you're kind of reacting to how poor their movement is, but you're also punishing it or creating that opportunity in a weird way. I guess it's even more of a philosophical question. Are you creating it or are you punishing these scenarios?
But when I play League,
it's both.
It might just be me, but I think I'm just in pure reaction. I'm reacting to everything in the game's reaction. But you would look at my gameplay and it looks hyper aggressive, but I'm just punishing things because, okay, but really the way you think about it, because it's chess. Your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn. So the enemy's doing a series of bad turns. You just have a great turn.
If we're going to get this is where we're getting into Reddit analyst mode here for a second. Right? We're going to engage Reddit analyst mode. This is going to sound wacky as shit.
God, Curtis, where are we going with this?
We're going to La La Land for a second. Just go on a holiday with me here. Okay, you know what you said there? Reaction, and there's like chess. They make a move, you make a move. The way that looks like in League is that we're going full, Reddit analyst mode. There's an input they do and there's an input we do. Every input is theoretically a decision, right? With their decision to click backwards instead of forwards is a decision that you either can punish or not punish. So when say if I was smurfing in low elo, one of the first things that I would punish in lane is they're back clicking. They're giving me space in the lane. I'm inputting a command forwards, which is pushing them back, which is giving me lane control, which means I get more wave control, which means I can punish them easier with better quality. It depends on how deep you want to go. You can look at it in terms of increments of 10 seconds. You can look at it in increments of 5 seconds. You can look at increments of like inputs, singular inputs. League is a game of just strategy at a very microscopic level, but also blows out into strategic level decisions.
Picture, yeah.
It's just whatever level you want to look at the game. Now, obviously, there's no value in looking at the game at that microscopic level, click by click, unless you're an incredibly sophisticated player at the highest levels of League of Legends. The less experience you are with the game, the higher level you want to think in a weird way, right? It's like, what's big picture happening with the wave here? What's big picture happening with like the wave state or
what's
the lane
big picture?
state?
What I want to do with my champion?
Exactly right.
The basics of champ
You're
mastery.
starting very big picture and you're slowly
refining
it until you get into the point where it's very off this minion. What am I going to do off that minion? What am I going to do off when he uses that ability? What am I doing now? You know, it just gets more detailed oriented. And that's what League of Legends is at the very root thing. It's just
the core of it.
What you said, it's just they make a move, I make a move. They make a move, I make a move. So it's always action, reaction, action, reaction, action, reaction, constantly.
All right, so there you go. Hopefully that will help you a bit. That was from Carloman. And also looking as well, he posted his Stuck account. So his Stuck account is currently gold 4 with 80 games played, 55% win rate, and his main account is platinum 3 with 160 games, 50% win rate. The trajectory of this account is basically saying that you might be like a high gold, low platinum player.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty much stabilizing. When did he send this email? He sent this email 4 days ago. So he is rocket. He won a lot of games?
He said he plays a lot of games, right?
Oh, yeah. So
remember he said he plays like
15 games a day, dude. This guy plays a lot.
He's a grinder.
Yeah, he's gone on massive win streaks. Like, look at this win streak here. He won, 10 games and lost 1. So, I think that this guy's actually just proving once again that his rank system is literally just correcting itself with enough games over time anyway.
He's just probably a platinum player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was, he said Emerald. He was Emerald for 0 LP.
Yeah. So he could be mid-plat.
He could have peaked that. It could have been like,
bit lucky, better, right place, right time.
That's right.
Could be a plat 3 player, plat 2 player. Who knows?
All right, moving on here. Our next question comes from a Viking from Norway. The title of his email is How Coach Curtis and Nathan Mott Changed the Life of a Viking. Greetings from Norway. Sorry in advance, this might be a long one. I'll link my OPGG in advance before we begin our story. Fun fact, the gamer name is my last name in Norwegian directly translated. And that is Crazy Valley.
Oh, so that's like his name, but it's translated.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So that's what it actually translates to.
So he's Platinum 1 currently, and he finished last season Diamond 4. I really wanted to share my journey with you since you are one of the main reasons I've reached my goal. I began my league journey back in 2009 2010, and didn't dare to play ranked before season 3. I got silver that year, gold season after, and plat season after. Even reaching diamond almost master with my 3v3 team. I really miss the 3v3 map. Right, please.
Me too.
We played a lot of 3v3
played
back
a
in the
lot.
We played a lot.
Yeah, it's like probably one of the main game modes we played together.
Before we took ranked really that seriously, it was 3v3.
We were probably taking it seriously, though.
Yeah.
Like, we're trying to really win.
Yeah, we'll try to min-max the strategies and stuff.
It was fun.
But the year after I got gold, stuck, when I thought I could push for diamond, what followed was 4 more years as being gold stuck, angrily blaming the system teammates name the negative narrative. I've had it. When COVID hit, I really wanted to push it and learn because what I did obviously was not working. If other people climb just because they simply are good enough, there has to be a reason. Reasons then a no-ending stream of bad luck, right? Thanks to this, I got to plat 1. I was sure I could make it to diamond. I was stressed in the last push and had more trolls on my team more than ever. I needed to 1v9 every single game as a Warwick OTP, had 1 or 2 wins away, and then the loss streak began. And I found myself in plat 4. So from plat 1 to plat 4 a week later when the season ended, and I was pissed. Then Emerald was introduced 2 years later. Ryder's making another attempt to make me not reach my goal of diamond. And he said, as I said, I've had every narrative possible. Then I found a jungle coach on YouTube that recently started a community, which I joined because finally I could afford using money to get decent coaching. I even asked this coach to getting me to a diamond a challenge on his YouTube because I was so certain that this was almost impossible. But this coach helped me to get Emerald 1 some weeks before the season ended. Then came another end season of the last push attempt. While this ended the same way, an insane loss streak ended in Emerald 3. I was sure I was not fit for diamond. No matter how hard I tried, no matter the effort, I could not do it because I couldn't handle the bullshit from my team. Then something remarkable happened. Someone in the jungle community linked a YouTube video of 2 guys in 2 chairs talking about LP range. I think that was the episode where we said that, I think it was last year, about understanding the LP range swing. That was actually from chess, actually. We got that from. This concept blew my mind, and their positive attitude blew my mind. Someone in the jungle community had a similar attitude, and he was the one linking your video. I didn't understand how someone could have such a positive attitude towards this game. Hate the gamers, not the game, was my thinking. So I loved the game, but other players stopped me from loving it. After listening to this episode, and from then on listening to even more episodes, learning about growth mindset and not getting emotional about things I cannot control, together with amazing coaching I started off season 14 split 1 with hitting diamond in no time. I'd been a Belveth OTP for a while, so I was thrilled about the grubs. Something about a new map and new mindset just clicked for me, or maybe the mindset was just enough. Skip time to this day, I ended split 2 in diamond. Also starting hard off as a plat player in split 3, but that is fine thanks to the growth mindset. I don't care as much. And my wife is giving birth to our first son in just a couple of weeks' time, so I won't have much time to play anyway. But this mindset also helps me become a better person, better driver. League and driving is so similar, and also will help me become a better dad. Can't wait to teach my little one about the growth mindset when he's old enough to understand it, and it started with you guys. This was not an email to ask a question, but rather to confirm again what an amazing change you are doing to the community. May the mindset of the BBC comment section on YouTube spread through all league content YouTube comments. Much love, a Viking from Norway.
Wow. I love that.
We love success stories here.
Yeah, I mean, and I always say this, like hearing these stories, it means a lot to me, Nathan, because a lot of people don't understand about what we do is that we don't get to interact with people on a face-to-face basis. We're working with people online. We don't see them. And a lot of the time, because we're working with so many clients, we lose that personal touch or that personal aspect, with it. And hearing these stories, it's just reassuring that we're doing something pretty cool here. And it's amazing.
Especially these drastic changes. Like I was talking to, because we're doing some success stories, we're collecting them from our members currently, with Makiak, and he was saying he was like the most toxic player. He was perma-banned. And like where he's now, I would never guess that. And he did this transformation in like 5 months, by the way. And he went from silver to diamond 1. And I was like, that's... sometimes you think like, it takes a long time for people to change. But like seeing stories like that, it's crazy that people can change. Again, it's like their whole attitude.
It's this attitude. And just like him, just the LP range, just understanding how the LP ranges work and probably understanding that you just focus on what you can, just things that not overly complicated, but they just go a long, long, long way.
That's why a lot of this podcast is about the stage 4 issues in our pyramid. A lot of the outer game stuff, your view of the game, your narrative is so important to your experience with League of Legends, loving, enjoying the game, and getting results with it. And people get lost. And high level players are really bad at this. Is like, there's all this stuff outside of the game to explore rather than just like, okay, this is the decision you make there, this decision you make there. And I think that gets lost a lot in the coaching community as well. It's just a lot of people just focus on game stuff. And this stuff is just massive because no matter how much knowledge you have, if you're super toxic, you got in permaband, you are going to be hundreds and hundreds of LP below the skill level you can actually reach. Just from your attitude towards the game.
And it's just going to be miserable.
Yeah,
and
it's a miserable experience.
At the end of the day, you haven't, I have been there. It's toxic, and it's bad. It's a bad way of living. It's a waste. It's a genuine waste of time. And seeing people, it's just so when it clicks, it's just so powerful, and it's such an important message, Nathan. It's so important. We're not only helping them have a better relationship with the game, but we're actually helping them just have a better life. Because if you're sitting there miserable, wasting hundreds of hours, like, holy shit, man, life's too short for that.
That's right. It
Life
really
is way too short for that.
And League's a great game that people don't realize, So yeah, love reading these success stories. As Curtis said, this helps us a lot because, again, we don't really, the face-to-face thing and, hearing that, this guy's, going to be a dad and stuff. Yeah, it's amazing, really cool.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you for writing in.
Yeah.
And awesome to hear about your transformation story from the podcast. All right, Curtis, that wraps up our episode today.
Yep.
Good work, guys. Let's keep on improving 3-block process. We'll see you guys next week.